Hello, dear friends. Here we are, the Medium's Harvest. Yes, this is day 17. Day 17, and we're here with you in a new opportunity to deepen our studies on mediumship. Why is it so important? Because mediumship is part of us. Mediumship is like intelligence. It's an ability, as Emmanuel says, repeating from Kardec's studies. It's an ability of the soul. So we need to use it and also educate it. Now, remember in the caveman time, at that time people didn't know they had intelligence. They discovered later. They were using it without knowing it. They didn't educate it at all. Yes, the advent of schools came much later. And public schools came much later. So why we're saying this? Because nowadays people are finding out the importance of mediumistic literacy. Okay? Let's say this expression, mediumistic literacy. It's coming to know the ABCs of mediumship, educating it, to use it productively to propel progress on the earth. That's why you may talk to people about it and they're like, what are you talking about? You're crazy? We don't need it. Oh. There will be a time on the earth when mediumistic education is going to be second nature. Mediumistic education is going to be obvious. And its practice will be ever more obvious. And people will understand that mediumship is here to help the progress of humanity. For now, you and I are learning with the superior spirits that we need to do it, and why, and how, and when, and with whom. That's why we need. Each one of us here are mediums. According to Kardec, we're all mediums because we all perceive spirits at some point. But the point is, what do you do with mediumship? I don't do anything, but we need to do something. Because it's like having intelligence and not using it or not educating it. So we need to use mediumship for the benefit of all, including ourselves. So these studies on the medium's harvest really come as mediumistic literacy, okay? Mediumistic literacy, all right? Desculpa, Jorge Gomes, a gente não tem tradutor, desculpa. Friends, so mediumistic literacy is what we're doing here. Kardec brought the manual, the ABCs of mediumship. Then comes Emmanuel to deepen it. It's still elementary, though profound. But for the earth, we're yet to see the unfoldment of it all. But you are invited to join this group of incarnates and discarnates that understood that mediumship needs to be educated. Let me give an example about educated mediumship. Somebody who knows they feel things that are beyond the physical senses. It's an extrasensorial perception, okay? The famous sixth sense. They go to a party and they start feeling awkward. They have options. Non-educated mediums, what will they do? They will start drinking to relieve that feeling. They're going to engage into casual sex, flirtations, or bad-mouthing people. They go home and they feel even worse, and they're like, ah, why did I go to that party? Now the good medium goes to the same party because it's a social gathering. They have to go because it belongs to work, belongs to family reunion, community. So they go. They start feeling funny. They start praying. Of course, there are other spirits here. Let me pray. And they start inside, like I'm talking to you, and inside of my mind, praying that there is this light coming, relieving, good spirits entering, and rescuing the needed entities. And then somebody comes and approaches me and starts talking bad things about somebody else. As a good medium, I start to refrain myself from engaging into that conversation, knowing that I will attract more negative entities, and that's not actually ethical, moral, according to the laws of God. So the good medium disciplines emotions, thoughts, words, actions. That's why Emmanuel told Chico, if you want to go through this step, discipline yourself. Discipline of emotions, discipline of actions, discipline of thoughts, feelings. 1, 2, 3. So the medium's harvest come as mediumistic literacy for us, ok? Alfabetização mediúnica. Today, we're going to learn that mediumship with Jesus is the only way. Not because we don't recognize the prophets and the masters of all times, but because the Christ consciousness is the divine framework for our moral, ethical approach in mediumship. Chapter 17, In the Glory of the Christ. It was a meeting on February 29th, 1960, when Emmanuel brought this message based on an item 46 of the Medium's book, subsection 7. They are talking about the Christ. Let's see what Emmanuel says. He begins by saying, if among the magnificent lives on earth, one existed in which mediumship appeared with all its characteristics, it was the glorious life of Christ, of the Christ. The gospel emerges from the contact between the two worlds. Zechariah the priest becomes clairvoyant in an instant and sees a spiritual messenger who identifies himself by the name of Gabriel, announcing to him the birth of John the Baptist. This same Gabriel visits Mary of Nazareth as a heavenly ambassador and salutes her lilial heart, telling of her sublime motherhood. Jesus is then under the lights and voices of superior spirits. Utilizing the divine magnetism he owns, the heavenly benefactor turns water into wine at the wedding at Cana. He intervenes in various obsessive phenomena in which inferior entities cause numerous disorders, including the mental alienation of the obsessed at Gadara and the feverish exaltation of Peter's mother-in-law. Jesus raises cadaveric bodies and regenerates the vital forces of diseased of all backgrounds. He appeases the turbid elements of nature and multiplies food for the need of the people. He reads the hidden thoughts of Magdalene's daughter, probing the most intimate ideals of the Samaritan. He himself speaks with illustrious discarnates on the summit of the Tabor in front of the frightened disciples. He warns Peter that unfortunate spirits will seek to induce him to a moral fall, and makes clear to Judas that he is not unaware of the plot of shadows that is victimizing the ill-fated people. The ill-fated apostle. He prays in the garden before the crucifixion, indicating the presence of divine envoys. And after death, he again converses with his friends, giving them instructions as to the fate of the good news. He reappears fully materialized before the apprentices on the road to Emmaus. Later he shows himself in spirit, seeking Saul of Tarsus in the vicinity of Damascus to entrust him with an honorable mission amongst humans. And when the young persecutor of the nascent gospel becomes traumatized by the unforeseen encounter, Christ himself seeks the cooperation of Ananias to rescue the new, astonished companion. It is useless, then, that distinct Christians of different faiths come together to respectfully unite mediumship in the name of metaphysics of parapsychology, which most resembles exquisite processes of doubt and denial, since no one can conceal the mediumistic facts of Jesus' life, who in the presence of all religions of the earth remains as an unquestionable sun shining forever. When we are studying mediumship, we're talking about a guided model. We have a guided model for mediumship practice. Jesus. He was, as Kardec says in the book Genesis, if he was a medium, Kardec says he was the medium of God. And Emmanuel comes here and breaks it down, the mediumistic facts that Jesus unfolded for us. What does that mean? It's an opportunity for us. It's an opportunity for us to talk to Emmanuel in our minds, trying to understand more and more about this opportunity that Jesus is modeling for us. He lays out the facts, and in his attitude, we have a model. So we need to observe his rapport, his approach, his behavior. If we go back, for example, just to give an example, when Jesus, his kindness, remember when he was praying, remember before he was crucified, he prays in the garden. Just as an example, as an instrument of God on the earth, he knows he's going to go through a very challenging time, the top of the challenges, what does he do? Is he proud of himself and saying, come on, I'm the governor. I know I'm not gonna die. It's okay, I'm cool. No, he prays. And he doesn't pray alone. He brings 3 of his disciples, Peter, John, and James. They're there praying. And they sleep. He comes back. And he doesn't think like, oh, I don't need them. They're just children. They don't understand what I'm doing here. No, they're like, you're sleeping? You forgot I asked you to help me? You see his humility? He knows we all need teamwork effort. We cannot do anything alone. And Jesus didn't refrain from making it clear that in the most difficult time, he needed help. How many people study mediumship, practice mediumship, and the more they get experience, their pride goes up to the point they say, I don't need to do more courses. I've already studied enough. I don't need to do this. I don't need to ask for counsel or exchange prayer. I'm fine. I pray once a day, and when I have problems, I know the good spirits are helping me. No, no, no. The more we practice it, the more we'll see the value of prayer. It's communication with God. The more we work on our mediumship, the more we're going to see how interdependent we are with incarnates and discarnates. The more we are experienced on mediumship, the more we're going to know we need to study it all over again to see deeper details on this beautiful exchange that can boost humanity's progress. If and only if I practice it with the virtues that Christ has taught us. So he is there praying, receiving support from higher spirits. And he's the governor of the planet. So here we have a model for us. A model. He cares for people's needs, and not only spiritual, because there are spiritists that think that we as spiritists should not be concerned about material things or the problems of material life of people, because all we can do and all we should do is give psychological and spiritual support. And there are many people who are not at all, okay? Who are not at all. Let me go back one thought here. People who are not only spiritists, spiritualists, or mediums who are not necessarily spiritualists or spiritists, and they think, all I need to do is psychological and spiritual care. Okay? And then we get to know that we are here for much more than that. So that's why Jesus comes, and what does he do? He helps those who are physically ill. He helps those who need food. He helps people who are obsessed, spiritually sick. In his report, we are learning about the beauty of it all. Isn't that beautiful? And he doesn't condemn anybody. He helps. So it's so interesting because above all things, what we're learning here. The last paragraph of this message is really striking. It's when Emmanuel tells us about people who only focus on the phenomenon of spirits, and they forget about the ethical, moral implications of it. To the point that Jesus becomes the highest example we could have of mediumship on the earth. Highest level of harmonized mediumship with God. We're not here to practice mediumship to prove to the world or to science that mediumship is for real. We spiritists are not to be involved with it. We can support, but it's not on us to prove to science. It's not on us to waste our time with such questions, researching it. We leave it to scientists. And I understand there are scientists who are spiritists. Yes, you're right. Okay. And it's true. There are scientists who are spiritists. As a scientist, they are investigating it. As a spiritist, they are practicing it, which is okay. But the spiritist, per se, does not need to worry about it. What matters for us, as Emmanuel says at the beginning, among the magnificent lives on earth, one existed in which mediumship appeared with all its characteristics. It was the glorious life of Christ. Why glorious? Why? Because it brings hope, consolation, joy. It reinforces why we're here. The focus of our lives. If we are one day at home asking, what should I do with my life? Easy. It's easy. Besides taking care of myself. Because that's an obligation. What should I do? Help the ones who are suffering. Wherever you find them. Because if I met somebody, it's not by chance. Okay? It's not by chance. I really need to work on it. I really need to be diligent at observing people's needs. What is it called? Altruism. But I'll give you some good news. Neuroscience proves to us that there is an area in our brain that is pretty much located in this area here, almost like antenna, okay? And these areas of the brain, they are highly activated when we feel altruistic. What does it mean? It means we are feeling that people are in need of help and I put their needs before mine. Those areas of the brain activate, but they activate differentially. So the more we practice that feeling of helping others, the more these areas become easily activated. There are people who don't easily notice people's needs. But the more we practice this observance, the more and more easily we will pick up on what people need. To the point that Jesus would look at people. He would already know. But he wouldn't interfere. So that's the balance. I see people's needs, but I need to allow them to be ready for the help. Other cases, we need to help without letting them ask. So that emotional, social wisdom comes out of practice. Practice makes perfection. So I'm going to give you a tip, sharing with everyone how we can boost altruism in us. By definition, altruism is defined as putting somebody else's needs before our needs. Begin small. When you are eating and there are people with you, do what Jesus used to do. He used to share the bread and distribute the bread to each one at the table before he started serving himself and eating himself. And that's because he is the Messiah. He was the master, and we know he's the governor of the planet. Why are we saying this? Why are we saying this? Because the importance of practicing this altruism, which is the highest quality in the Christ consciousness. When I feel hungry and I look at people around me, I serve them, and then I serve myself, I am practicing this, putting people's needs before mine. When we are parents, and especially mothers, it becomes almost like a natural thing. We're hungry, the baby needs to be fed. Well, how often? And I remember Mentor Joseph saying, practice altruism. Breathe in and out. You're gonna eat, but now the baby needs first. And that's nothing to do with the mask of oxygen, okay? We're not talking about dangerous occasions. We're talking about occasions in which people need more than us. If you have a baby, starving baby, and I am hungry, who comes first? The most fragile one, the baby. I cannot eat a meal and allow the baby to cry himself out. That's not right. So I need to organize myself, and there will times that we won't be able to organize ourselves. Life circumstances. It just so happens. You plan, and when you're about to eat, how often? With Virginia, little, being potty trained, we're about to eat some meal, and she's like, Mom, I need to go to the bathroom. What am I gonna say? Oh, well, let me eat my meal and then I'm gonna take you to the restroom. I'm gonna say, okay, man, this altruistic practice is tough, but that's not tough. Think about the refugees. They have their children, they don't have for themselves, and they need to provide. How hard it is, right, friends? So if we practice in our daily lives little bits of altruistic actions, one day we'll get to Jesus' level. By the cross, being crucified, murdered, and he was still consoling his mom, his disciple, the people, the thief next to him on the other cross. Little by little, Jesus kindly helping others in spite of his needs. Okay? So this is mediumship in the glory of the Christ. How inspirational. So our homework is to practice Altruism, which is the desire only for the good and nothing else. And once we're practicing, our vibrations go higher, we're able to attune with the higher spirits and be better instruments of the higher spirit. Shall we, friends? So here we have Rihanna with her granddaughter. What a blessing. Beautiful Rihanna. Xavier is here with us. Karina Alice. Cessa Costa. How are you, Cessa? And our friends. Lisa Teles, Adilson, Sunshine, Jorge, me desculpa, Jorge. Carol Correa and Mark Smith, how are you? We were just there together in the center. Patricia, it was so good to be here with you. It was a joy. A joy, 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 joy. We'll never forget those days of the last weekend in our event at the center. Bianca, our dear nurse of the heart. How are you, Bianca, and the family? Constance, how are you? Sol Souza. Daniela Oliveira, how are you? Constance, you have Anthony with us too. That's wonderful. Angelita, Fraternity Without Borders, how are you? Annie Mércia, Teresa Castro, how are you? Beautiful friend. Teresa Catapano, La Souza, Raquel Bakeshi, how are you? João Bosco, what a joy to have you here. Nina Du e Sônia Christian. Ai, meu Deus, que fofinha. Adorable Sônia. Hug to you, Lucas and Addie. Our best pianist ever. Julija, how are you? Audi Alves. Rudy, it's good to have you here. Rudy. And friends, if I missed any of you, forgive me. But we are here together, right? Yes, we are. So, what is going to happen tomorrow when we come back? What are we going to do? Are you ready? Yeah, there were parts that really felt like we needed more. And Emmanuel's going to give us more. As a wonderful educator, he's going to give us more. Okay? And it's going to be about obsession. And Jesus. We're talking about mediumship with Jesus. And Emmanuel is going to bring us a gift. The breakdown of the understanding of obsession in Jesus. He has a lot to teach us. And he says to us, amongst other things, as a teaser, tomorrow. In face of scorners of all time, let us educate our mediumship in the Spiritist doctrine. For only Spiritism is a light strong enough to inspire reason when the mind becomes transgressed, ungoverned, under fascination from the darkness. Are you ready to come tomorrow and join us? It's gonna be superb. Why? Because we're talking about the highest level of rescue work through mediumship. We need more and more people prepared for it to help this cleansing of the earth, shifting consciousness through the practice of this obsession. Come tomorrow and join us. Annie Mércia, send to us. We will love to know more about your music too. Friends, Jesus is passing by, Teresa Castro, right? The children singing. Jesus is passing by, literally he is. Jesus is passing by, and what happens when he comes? And when he comes, everything is fine, sadness is gone, and happiness arrives. Let's go with Jesus and happiness arrives. Bye bye, friends.